Hello, welcome to episode 3 of ProgPod. This is Eric.
And I'm Brandon, as you all should know by now.
And we have a special episode for you today.
It's going to be a series of episodes, actually, and we're both really excited for it. We're going to be doing our top 50 songs over the next 5 to 6 episodes or so. And it's going to be interesting because, I know a lot of his favorite songs, and he knows a lot of mine, but ordering them into 50 and what comes what in which order is going to be surprising for both of us, I think, because we both don't know where we currently sit on those kinds of things. And we've never ranked 50 songs before together.
Yeah, we pretty much annually for the past 3 years, we've done a thing where we've gotten together and discussed what our current top 50 favorite albums are and our top 25 favorite artists are. And this year we decided to extend that to songs. And that was actually before we even decided to do a podcast thing. But now we're going to do the songs thing, and we're going to do it for the podcast. And we're going to split it up. We're going to do 10 each this week. Because if we did all 50 at once, it would be a very long
It'd be
episode.
like a 5-hour episode.
Yeah, seriously. We have to tame ourselves enough, even just with 10 songs.
Yeah.
Cut ourselves off a little bit.
Which is going to increase the suspense for both of us as well, because I want to know the full list right now.
Yeah. So we're going to do that. We're going to give our first 10 today. This is in lieu of our normal stuff, because we're not really going to have time to do the what have you been listening to. Okay.
All right, so we're going to get started. We're going to switch off every 2 songs. So I'll do 50 and 49, and then he'll do his 50 and 49, and so on and so forth until we get to 41
so
today.
that we're not droning on for 10 songs?
That's how we'll do that for, I guess, the entire thing. Maybe you might switch it up when we get closer to the top. But yeah, just the brief intro for how I ranked mine. I just picked my 50 favorite. I narrowed it down from a very big list that I had over the last 3 weeks or so. So I've slowly been cutting it down just from songs being cut and not actually ranking them at all. Actual ranking took place this week only. And I had initially about 175, 180 songs or so to cut from. And I got that all the way down to 70 last week. And then near the beginning of this week, I had it down to the 50 that I wanted. And then I ranked them this week. And actually, I've been making changes, small changes here and there, up until about 30 minutes before I came over here. So it's been very fluid, but I feel pretty good about how they came out. And yeah, I mean, speaking of albums, it's different with songs. Album context does matter to me, though, how a song what it means to me. But I didn't use the album context.
That's actually really interesting. I was going to mention the same exact thing.
As much as I would have, but it still did play a factor on some of the songs on the list because of how it works so well within the album that I just couldn't leave it off the list. So I guess I'll get started with my first one. Coming in at number 50 is a song by Porcupine off of their album Deadwing. I didn't know that the song was going to make the cut. I've been listening to a lot of songs on this list to see what would make on it, and it's Arriving Somewhere But Not Here. It's the 12-minute centerpiece on the album. It's always been one of my favorite Porcupine songs. It's really good. It's got a really cool, really slow build, atmospheric, synth and stuff. Before this lovely and haunting guitar melody comes in, and Wilson has really good lyrics on this one. Stephen Wilson, that is, the frontman of Porcupine Tree, if you don't know. He's got really good lyrics, and it's really, again, still this slow build with these verses and this beautiful melodic vocal line in the chorus, before bursting into this really, really emotional guitar solo. And the middle of the song completely changes up everything and goes into this really, really heavy, some of the heaviest stuff Porcupine Tree ever wrote, this really heavy guitar riff section. The whole band's just going absolutely nuts. Gavin Harrison is a machine. The whole band's just going insane at this point before turning it back down one more time to just this really slow guitar solo with this electronic drum beat in the background that works really well for the whole band blast back in one more time. For the original guitar work that's being done, and one more verse from Wilson, and it's just a really, really beautiful song. It's really haunting. it's not a particularly happy song. As far as I'm aware, that album is like about a lot of ghost stories, which is interesting. But yeah, the song is really well done, and it makes me just, I don't know. I don't know particularly what the song itself is about, but it like means a lot to me, and lyrically it's very well done, and also instrumentally it's like an amazing piece of music. So that's my number 50.
We had an argument with an acquaintance the other day about the song.
We recently did have an argument that someone argued it was an emo song.
And the Screamo song as well. Doesn't have any harsh vocals at all.
Entirely clean vocals.
Entirely clean vocals.
Which is interesting. So I've heard the song recently and I listened to it again. So my number 49, maybe a band that's not super familiar to progressive rockers and progressive metalers, but it is definitely a prog song in its own right. This one might surprise Eric, not sure though.
I'll tell you if I was surprised I am.
Yeah, it's the band is Punch Brothers, and the album is The Phosphorescent Blues. They're a progressive bluegrass band from New York. I've seen them live before. Very, very talented. But the song is called Familiarity, which is the opening track on that album. It's a 10-minute long song with like 3 really distinct movements that all flow well together. The instrumentation is unreal. It's really, really well done. The lead composer in the band, Chris Tilly, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's a ridiculously talented mandolin player. I've never heard a better mandolin player. Opens up with this really, really technical like mandolin thing he's doing before bursting into the whole band playing as well. And it's got really, really good lyrics. I think the song, as far as I know, is about a person who's become so attached to technology that it doesn't he can't feel real human emotion anymore. And it tells the story of how he is in this relationship with this girl and he just can't feel what he needs to feel to please her or whatever. And the relationship ends up falling apart because of this. The whole album has these themes of technology really controlling humans' lives. But it's this really beautiful piece. There's this really cool, almost a cappella part in the middle where all the band members are harmonizing together before going into this really slow, outro with the fiddle player playing some marvelous music. And it's just a really emotional song for me. I think it's really well written, both musically and lyrically. And some of the lyrics at the end with the fiddle playing in the background just really gets me every single time. And you should definitely check that song out.
All right, so that was a pretty good, first 2. So for me, I also, like Brandon, had a very difficult time narrowing down what the 50 songs were gonna be. When we first decided to do this, I knew it was gonna be tough. Because I was like, oh, 50? That seems like such a small number of songs.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe a month ago was when I first started even trying to start doing it. And I made a list of all the songs that I thought, off the top of my head, that I thought deserved to be in a top 50 list for me. And I ended up with a list of 320 songs. And that wasn't even all of them. I actually went back over the next couple weeks and added some extra ones that needed to be on there too. So I ended up being well over 300 songs. And I had to whittle that down. Actually, I kind of started with a different approach last week. I kind of just when I started making the true list, the true final list, I kind of just started from the top and started going down to 50 because it's too hard to whittle down 300 songs. So I just did it that way. So I'm so at 50 songs. All the songs on here are some of my favorite songs ever. Just because a song is not on here doesn't mean that I don't absolutely love it. And there are many songs, I'm sure Brandon will agree with this too. There are many songs that I love that aren't going to be on here.
Yeah.
And I've seen people do lists before where it's something's 25th or whatever, and they're talking about what's wrong with it, and it's okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Nothing's
for
wrong
reference,
with it.
every song on this list, on my list, is a masterpiece. And
yeah.
There, like you said, there's 200, 300 more that are also masterpieces that just didn't make the list.
Yeah. So anyways, so just maybe a little word about how I chose the songs. I also, like Brandon, I maybe use a little bit even less album context, because I was doing more standalone songs. And there are some artists who kind of suffered from that approach a little bit in the list. And if I were to do an artist or albums list, they might be higher up than you'd expect given how many songs are on this list. But a few bands benefited from that too, and a few bands benefited on some albums and didn't benefit on other albums. Anyway, so without further ado, here are my number 50 favorite song. of all time is going to be one that is going to surprise Brennan a little bit maybe. And it is going to be Veil by the band Haken. And it's off their most recent album, Vector. It's kind of the centerpiece, and I think my favorite song on the album. It's in the middle of it, like exactly. It's like a 12-minute song, and it's just their latest like masterpiece of a song. Haken is a band that is so good at writing these like epic tracks, and this is like just another example of that. It's just so dynamic. It starts off with just like some like really cool like riffing and everything, and like lots of really cool energetic riffing, and it has like everyone's just going nuts the whole time on their instruments. Just like drums on point, you know, some on point drums, great guitars. Ross is like also just going nuts the whole time in terms of vocals, just like so good. And like probably my favorite thing about the song is how like halfway through, like in the first like 7 minutes or so are just like this like, you know, normal like sort of Haken-y like really heavy metal song, and then like halfway through it like it almost seems like it's a new song. And it just like goes really quiet and soft, and this like piano line comes on. It's like so good, and it really just makes the song feel like an adventure. And I think that's one of the things that Haken's the best at, is making the songs feel like an adventure, because they have so many different parts that are like distinct from one another. And this is another version of that. It's so good. It's a very emotional song too. It's just like really hits me hard, man. So that's a great song. It's number 50. Number 49. Is The Most Cursed of Hands / Who Am I by The Deer Hunter off of Act 5, which is the most recent full length. And this is an album. The Deer Hunter is actually one of the bands I was kind of talking about who kind of suffer a little bit more by the not much context approach, but they're still featured quite a bit on this list because I love them so much. But this song is actually probably my favorite on Act 5. It's very different. Deer Hunter is known for like just having a bunch different songs that are like almost in the same album. They're like in a completely different genre almost, or that are just so far out of left field. And this is like one of those. It's like really like a folky song. It starts out especially as like almost like a folk thing, and it also has a really cool place in the Deer Hunter's like story arc. Because they have, if you've ever heard of the Deer Hunter, they have like 5 albums right now called The Axe or whatever, and there's gonna be another one. Or something. Yeah, like they say it's not going to be an album or a rock album. But anyways, and it has like one story. And in this particular song is like one of the characters like telling like a threatening like parable to another character. And it's really cool. It really captures that like vibe, whatever, like really kind of like threatening, scary, spooky story. And the actual story is about it's about like the devil playing cards with like a gambler or whatever, and the gambler wins, but really what he wins is like the devil's soul or whatever, and he like sets the devil free, and then he has to like beat the devil now, which is rough. It sounds like not a great game, not a great time. Anyway, so it's really great, and it starts off with like just like very folky, and then it kind of builds and builds, and then like towards the end he's like yelling like the chorus and everything. It's super good. Absolutely love that song.
All right, so my 48 is a band we've already heard from me already. It's weird how close these two are lumped together, because like this song is a clear favorite song for me from this band, and it's Porcupine Tree again off the album Fear of a Blank Planet, and the song is Anesthetize. That's a little hard word to pronounce. But yeah, this is my favorite Porcupine Tree song, and the one I just talked about is obviously my second favorite, but there's a clear gap between these two, but they did end up very close together on this list. And I know about when we did this last time, a year and a half ago, this was in my top 15 of all time.
Oh, wow.
And, it's not anywhere near that anymore.
Yeah,
things have changed. But it's still just a brilliant, brilliant song. The album as a whole centers around, like, overprescription of, like, pills and, like, drug use and stuff like that for, like, kids and stuff. And this song is really the centerpiece of this album. It's a 17-minute track or so. It's really, really composed beautifully. It starts off, again, really atmospheric with this, like, drum beat and this, like, keyboard thing that Richard Barbary is playing. before Steven's vocals come in. Again, more atmospheric type vocals. About the 4-minute mark, it's Alex Lifeson is a guest feature on this. She's the guitarist from Rush. Lays down a really tasty solo. I'm a big Alex Lifeson fan. Rush is one of my favorite bands. Really tasty guitar solo. And then there's this heavy like guitars start coming in slowly. And eventually it breaks onto this like really, really catchy verse chorus structure in the middle of the song around the 8 or 9 minute mark before bursting into this like really, really heavy section. I think it's the heaviest thing Porcupine Tree ever did in a singular section. It's really well done. And then the final song again goes back super atmospheric and ties just like the whole thing together. It's a really, really good piece of music with really good lyrics. The lyrics are really well done considering the subject matter. And it's a really great song. My next one, number 47, is a song I didn't know was going to make this list, but it kept just like making the cut after each and every time. And the reason I didn't think it was going to make the list is because this album is such an album where it's really hard to pick a song from. This is definitely my favorite song from the album. The album is Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory, and the band is Dream Theater. And the song is Finally Free, which is the closing track on this album. And it's such an amazing song. It opens with this like really eerie like piano and like keyboard bit that goes into this like almost like menacing like almost like symphonic keyboard thing before James comes in with his vocals. It's one of my favorite vocal performances on the album. The part where it's like feeling good this Friday. I love that part so much.
It's like jolly.
It sounds so jolly, but it's like
doesn't have a good ending.
No, it doesn't. And then there's this awesome riff from Petrucci after that into this really, really great solo. And then the Mike Portnoy just goes like nuts on drums, like the final like 4 minutes of the song. Really long.
That's like one of the highlights to me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Like really long drum outro, and he's just going absolutely nuts. If you've ever seen it done live, he is a machine doing this part. It's really, really well done. And then it has this really weird ending to the entire album, which is part of the song. There's like a lot of like vocal sample effects and stuff like that to showcase you the big twist. I won't spoil it if you haven't listened to the album, but it's just a really, really amazing ending to an amazing album, and it made the list because of that. And it's just a really good standalone song, I think.
So my number 48 is a song by a band called Hammers of Misfortune, and the song is The Locust Years. And this is a song that if I'd made this list last year, would have been a lot higher up. But it's fallen that time, but it's still a very good song, obviously, because it made the list. I still love it. And this is from the album that is also called The Locust Years, which is definitely my favorite Hammers of Misfortune album. And Hammers of Misfortune, they're bands I've talked about on the podcast before. They are like a progressive heavy metal band. This album is a concept album, and I'm not quite sure what the concept is. It's really hard to find information about it, but I'm pretty sure it's about like apocalyptic type stuff, because the whole album like seems very apocalyptic to me, and this song is a very good example of one that seems like apocalyptic. Like it just starts off with these like with like a really long instrumental, but then it goes into this like these like soaring like clean vocals that just sound so evil. Like for some reason it always remind me of like just like some like group of like oligarchs just like talking about how they're gonna take everyone over and like and just like it's so evil. And the whole album just like conveys that super well. And so I love this album a lot. But this is my not my favorite song on the album, but it's a very good song. Love it a lot. Okay, and number 47 for me is one that you might think would be higher, but it is Cassandra Gemini by the Mars Volta. And this album, Francis the Mute, was the first of our own personal albums of the week that we did. It was
the first one.
The first one you gave me.
Yeah.
And this song, the song is kind of a microcosm for the album for me. But at first, I did not like the song or the album at all, like really, and because it was the first album of the week. And I was just like, "What? It's so weird. It's such a weird."
I gave you a nice accessible
song.
one to digest.
Yeah,
first.
seriously, it's a 30+ minute song, very long. It's like it has like lots of really weird vocals, like just like like a lot of shrieked kind of bits. It's not. I wouldn't say it's like harsh vocals, but some really unsettling vocals and screeches, and some really weird lyrics that are like whispered and spoken in like horrifying, like a horrifying way. And really, it's like a really long like instrumental section. But it's honestly. So at first I really didn't like the song. It's very inaccessible for me. But I came back to it later, and I just gradually started to like it more and more. And now I like it enough to where it is in my top 50 favorite songs of all time. It's a very, very good song. Like the structure of it is really cool. It starts off like with like a really cool like normal sort of like the Mars Volta style like progressive like sort of Latin-y like guitar stuff, and then like it does all the really weird stuff, and then has like a really long instrumental section. Like I was mentioning, and then it goes back to like the starting part towards the end, and that's like really cool. Like when it comes back to the main like riff, or whatever, it's like it's like such a cool moment after going through that like whatever like 10-minute like journey of weirdness. Yeah. I mean like 30-minute journey of weirdness. Yeah, you go back to where it started. It's really, really cool. So love that song a lot.
All right, 46 is my favorite song by this band. And the band is Opeth. I often call it to Eric. I think it's the quintessential Opeth song. It's my favorite song. It's a song I would show to someone who wanted to get into the band too. So I think that means a lot. If someone had never listened to Opeth before, this is the song I would show them. Just throw the harsh vocals at them immediately if they were looking to get into the harsh vocal side of Opeth. And that song is "Ghost of Perdition" by Opeth. It's the opening track on their album Ghost Reveries. It's a really amazing song. It's just so well written. It just opens up with this like really like mellow guitar line, which lasts like 3 seconds before bursting in. It's this really heavy riff, and Mikkel like growling at you, and it's really well done. And it comes into this really like almost like chuggy riff after the harsh vocals, with Michael's like clean vocals coming in, before going into this like back into the harsh vocal heavy section, and then finally coming into this really like atmospheric section, which the first time I listened to it I was really like caught off guard by, and Michael does these really like almost like angelic I can't even describe. It's really hard to describe. These really angelic, like Oz or whatever. It's really hard to describe unless you listen to the song. Anyways, after that it comes into this like really like beautiful slow guitar solo, before bursting back into this really heavy riff. And the rest of the song, kind of has this juxtaposition of like super heavy riffs with these really like these like slower sections and more atmospheric sections with the keys coming in with this almost like mellotron sounds coming in. I'm not sure if they actually do use a mellotron there. I think they might, but I know it's the keyboardist does all that work. It's really this like juxtaposition of like different styles just coming together like perfectly, forming this amazing song. And at the end of the song, it comes back to that like angelic vocal thing I was saying, but this time with like the heavier riffs backing it. And it's a 10-minute song, and it's like a journey of a song, and it's just such an amazing song, and it's like definitely a song I think anyone who wants to get into Opeth or heavier progressive music should check out. And my next one, number 45, is by a band called Leprous, off their album Bilateral. And this is also my favorite Leprous song, and the song is Forced Entry. This is kind of the song that like got me into the band, actually. It's their longest song in the second longest song in their discography. It's just over 10 minutes. And I don't know, it's just very like leprosy. It opens up this really chaotic guitar thing and keyboard thing, and it's really like unsettling the first time you hear it. I feel like it's just like really crazy, and you're not sure like what's gonna happen. And the whole song has this like really incredible build. It's got a lovely chorus from Einar Solberg. The vocal work is like incredible throughout their discography and this album. And around the 5-minute mark, the chorus comes back, and there's this really, really, really tasty guitar solo that happens that's just very, very delicious. And if you're listening to new Leprous and haven't listened to old Leprous, it's going to be very, very different from what they're doing nowadays.
We're minimalistic now, yeah.
Huh? Much more minimalistic. There's not any of this to be found, which I like both versions of Leprous a whole lot. But yeah, the song eventually comes down again and builds to this really atmospheric section before the vocals are really powerful at the end, and it's just like really, really emotional, the ending of the song. And it's a really, really great song overall.
Okay, so my 46 is one that I think is going to surprise you in that I don't think you've heard the song. And it's one that's also surprising because it's probably the least progressive song on this list, and also the least maybe epic song. And the song is called Dead Man's Fog by the band Giant Squid. This is a song I heard all the way back in 2015. And it's from an EP that they did called, I think it's called Monster in the Creek. And at first I listened to it back then and I was like, oh, it's okay. But I was going through the band's discography late last year, and I came back across this album, and I don't know why, but for some reason, maybe it's the fact that I was already a little bit familiar with it from listening to it back in the day, but I liked this whole EP a lot more, and I really appreciated how atmospheric it is. So this song is it's a pretty short song. It's very, very atmospheric. So it's literally about a boat going through fog, and the main character is thinking about death and stuff, and thinks he isn't gonna make it out of the fog. But it's only a 6-minute song or so, but it just really, really captures that vibe of just being in a dreadful horrible situation, and it's really dark. I wouldn't listen to it in the summer on a nice day. I would listen to the song when it's in the winter and it's cold and damp, and it would be the perfect song for that. It's just really, really good, and it's just really calm with haunting vocals. Number 45 is one that I don't think will actually surprise you at all. This is the song is "The Coma Machine" by Between the Buried and Me, which is a band that I discovered last year. I had listened to some of them before, some songs by them before, but I dove into their discography last year with a little helpful push by Brandon. This album, Coma Ecliptic, which is the album that this song is on, was an album of the week. And this album, I'd say, is one of my favorite albums, probably my top 10 favorite albums. But it is one of the albums that kind of suffers a little bit from just being one continuous thing and all the songs enhancing each other's. So, but that said, this song still was able to make it, and it's my favorite song on the album. Kind of just barely. If I had to do an honorable mentions or something, I think some of the other songs on this album would be close to the top 50. Anyways, but this song is really, really cool. It basically, after Node, which is sort of a really atmospheric sort of intro, it's very cool. It starts off the heavy. This is what you're gonna get for the rest of the album, basically, because Node is a little different. So Node leads into this, and it starts off perfectly with those chugs, you know. Yeah, it's just so good. You have to listen to the whole album once you hear those chugs. Yeah. Sometimes I'm I'm just gonna listen to one song.
And then those drum fills.
Yeah, exactly, right then. And it's so amazing. And this is such a good album. Such a good song, though, is what we're talking about. And I have one little funny thing I like to say about this album. So there's a part kind of in the middle where there's this descending sort of shreddy thing going on. I don't know how would you even describe that.
I don't know. It's really noodly. It's brought back twice in the song. And
yeah. It
at the end of the album. Yeah.
So I always say that album reminds me of if I were on a spaceship, in a futuristic world, or on a spaceship, and I was going to fight aliens or something that were invading, and I was about to rappel down from the spaceship with my space marine gun or whatever,
All right, my number 44 is by a band I hold very dear. We both do. This is a song that of this band's epics. I think this band writes some of the best epics. I'd say this one took the longest time to grow on me. And the band is Beardfish, and the album is The Void, and the song is Note. It's a 15-minute song from the band. They're very, very good at writing 15-minute songs specifically.
Yeah, it's weird to talk about that.
They're so good at writing 15-minute songs. If it's between 15 minutes and 16 minutes, and this band wrote it, it's going to be an excellent song. But this song is really, really good. It's definitely my favorite on the album. there's a lot of things going on. It keeps returning to this like lyrical, these lyrics that happen in the chorus, and that it keeps returning to that like I don't know 5 or 6 times throughout the song, and it does like other stuff in between that seems like. I don't know, it seems at first like very random, but it all ties in together like super, super well. And the highlight of the song for me is the middle end of the song, that around the 8 or 9 minute mark. There's this like lovely piano thing that happens.
Yeah.
And it's just and it's absolutely gorgeous. And it starts off really slow and then builds into this like really like grandiose like piano thing, like just the piano. And the other band members come in slowly as well, before like returning to like the main theme of the song. And it's just such a like roller coaster of like emotions, and like it's just such a journey as well. The lyrics are really well done, as is every single Beardfish song lyrically. But yeah, it's such a good song. So that's my number 44. My number 43 is by a person who's been mentioned on this list, but this is Steven Wilson, his solo work. And this was another artist that I think suffered a lot from like the whole like in context of an album thing, because Steven Wilson's albums all to me like they flow really well. A lot of them tell stories as well, one way or another. So it was really hard to pick singular songs on this list. But this is a song that might surprise Eric just for what song it is, because this is my favorite song on this album. I mentioned in the past that it hasn't been my favorite song on the album, but it's become my favorite song on the album somewhat recently. And the song is Ancestral. From Hand Cannot Erase, and I think seeing it live really like upped its status.
They put that really well live.
Yeah, this was my favorite moment of the entire show when we saw Steven Wilson live when they played Ancestral, and it was so good live. And it was already one of my favorites on the album and one of my favorite songs ever written. But yeah, the song is really emotional as well. It's like kind of near the end of a really emotionally draining concept album, and it opens up with this like really like this really quiet like electronic like drum beat before Wilson comes in with the piano and stuff, and singing these really emotional lyrics to me. And the highlight of the song for me is like again the second half, even though the first half like is perfect to go with the second half. And Steven says, "Come back if you want to," and then it goes into this like really excellent guitar solo from Guthrie Govan. It's really technical. It's super emotional too, though. It's just the perfect blend of the two. And then the second half of the song is this like really like this heavier like section with some really awesome guitar riffs before building up to this like monstrous like where it's like dun it. Yeah, and then there's the flute and stuff going on in the background as well. It's just really well done. And yeah, the whole song is perfect, and like again, it's one of those songs that like it's 13 minutes long. It just like ends kind of abruptly, but like in the context of the album, it flows like perfectly into the next song. So I don't have much to say on the ending because I'd have to talk about the next song if I did. Yeah. But yeah, Ancestral by Steven Wilson.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my number 44 song is another song by the band Beardfish. Who is a band that I'll tell you is featured pretty heavily on this list. I
should also mention that they're featured heavily on this list.
Yeah, they honestly are one that benefit from this whole thing. Yeah, because they just like do songs so well. But yeah, this song is a song from their last album, which is really sad to say. And the song is called Comfort Zone. And probably the highlight for the thing I'm going to talk about the most is the lyrics on the song. The instruments are also really good, but it's, I think, probably the saddest song on the album for me. The album in general is just about, it's about your comfort zones. It's about, people stagnating when they become, comfortable with things, and just, moving on from that. And there are different things in the album that, people, there are different characters in the album and different things that people are finding their comfort zone in. Different places where people are finding their comfort zones, and some of them are maybe a significant other or whatever that they need to move on from. But this one I interpret as being being stagnant and having your comfort zone and your home, and where you grew up and needing to leave there, but also it being hard to actually pull yourself away from that place. Because it's comfortable, and you need to rise above that or whatever. And those lyrics really speak to me, in my current life, and I'm sure a lot of younger people feel similar things all the time. So that's like one of the highlights for me. Ricard Sjöblom. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Ricard Sjöblom is what I'm going to say. Anyways, he's an excellent lyricist, and this is like one of my favorite songs that he's done lyrically. Yeah. Okay, so my next one is one of the first like prog rock songs that I fell in love with, and it is Luminol by Steven Wilson. This is from his album The Raven That Refused to Sing, and it's super good. It's a super good song. It's a song that starts off the album, and it starts off with what is probably still... Well, it starts off with like some chuggy things, but then it goes quickly into what is probably my favorite like bass line in like music, maybe. My favorite like part where the bass line's like the main focus or whatever. And it's just really, really catchy, and it's just like and it does that, and then it like quick goes into like a like kind of ends abruptly and goes into this really cool like sung part about and so it does that, and then like so apparently the song is about like a homeless person who like plays music or whatever, but like he just like is really bad at playing music, but he like still does it or whatever. So it's a really cool song. It's really dynamic. It has like a really quiet part in the middle, like after that bass section, and then it like goes back to like being like more energetic towards the end, and has like some really cool guitar solos and stuff going on throughout the whole thing. And it's a really good song. So that's my number 43.
All right, number 42 for me is my favorite song by this band. So far, there's been a lot of like favorites by certain bands, like overall, and the band is Mastodon.
Nice.
And the album is Crack the Sky. And it's the final track on the album. It's a concept album, so like this song is really important conceptually and holds a lot of weight for me. And I think it's like a perfect close to the album. And the song is The Last Baron. It's a 13-minute song. It's probably Mastodon's proggiest song they've ever written, I would say. And yeah, it opens up with this it opens up quickly with this like acoustic guitar lick before Brent Hines, the lead guitarist, comes in on vocals. And anytime Brent Hines is like featured heavily on a Mastodon song, I really like it. I wouldn't say he like conventionally has a good voice, but he's got this really like southern twang to his voice,
yeah.
And it's almost like nasally too sometimes. I think it works really well with Mastodon. I don't know if I'd like it like in like a different genre where it was like more front and center, but I think it really works well for what Mastodon is doing. And it does this really cool I think it's a catchy vocal line for like 3 minutes with Hines singing before bursting into this like heavier riff. And there's just a bunch of the next 7 minutes are just like kind of nuts, honestly, vocally and musically. There's a bunch of really cool riffs going on. There's a bunch of cool guitar solos going on. And it's really interesting musically. You never know what's going to happen next. And then the end of the song kind of returns to this original melody we had at the beginning of the song before Brent Hines lays down this really, really tasty guitar solo. It's my favorite guitar solo in Mastodon's entire discography that closes out the song. It's like a 2-minute guitar solo, and it slowly fades out the song. It's just a really excellent song. It's been one of my favorites for a long time, and it continues to be one of my favorite songs ever. So yeah, that's my 42. And my 41 is a band that Eric has talked about already, and we both kind of agree that it's really hard. This band is a band that suffers from a list like this.
Yeah.
And it's the Deer Hunter. And it's from Act 2, and the song is The Bittersweet 1 and 2, A Meeting Misleading and Through the Dime. This is my favorite song off Act 2. This is a song, honestly, on this list, this is a song I maybe listened to the most on this list, honestly, which is surprising.
Yeah.
I listen to this song a lot. The song is really, really emotional for me. And it's honestly the song I would say I turn to the most when I'm upset about something. I don't know, it has this it opens with this piano melody that is reprised many times throughout the rest of the acts. It's really just it's a heartbreaking piano melody. And one thing I think Casey Kuzensko, the main composer, lyricist, everything for this band, does really well is I think he writes really unique but also really, really emotional piano melodies. I don't know how he does it, but I don't know the way he writes piano, it just always tears your heart out, I feel like, a little bit. And there's no exception here. It's one of my favorite piano lines ever written. And it's got this really, like, I don't know, these really, really intimate lyrics. In the story, the main character he's falling in love for the first time, essentially. And it's got these really intimate lyrics about, like, the feelings you feel when that kind of thing happens. And how it can go, like, wrong as well. And then the second part of the song really, like, changes focus and shifts completely, like, musically and mood wise as well. And it's got this really I don't know how to describe it. It's got this really interesting piano line that's a little jollier before these drum fills come in. And it's kind of like this, like, choral thing that's going on, this call like back and forth going on between characters and stuff. And essentially the main character is going through a prostitution rink, essentially, and seeing what that's like for the first time as a young boy. Yeah, and it's got really good lyrics throughout, and the song is one of those songs. Again, they're an album band, and it just, like, ends abruptly, but it goes perfectly into the next song, and it's one of the most emotional songs for me on this entire list. But it's an amazing song, and it's helped me through a lot of hard times.
All right, so here are my final two for this week. So number 42 for me is a band. It's by a band called Jack of the Clock, Jack O' the Clock, really. And the song is called "The Old Man and the Table Saw." And Jack of the Clock is a band that I first listened to a couple years ago. I think it was, like, towards the end of 2016 when we first listened to them, I want to say. And it was actually really funny. Me and Brandon were on a drive around, and I had just made a playlist full of random stuff that I had just found on Spotify through suggestions and things like that. And we were going through it and, like, just picking out random songs, basically, and playing them. And one of the songs was by this band, and the band is called Jack O' the Clock. And me and Brandon, it's weird because me and Brandon both aren't the type of people to, like, judge a band by, like, what they're called or whatever.
Yeah.
But for some reason that night we were both just like, that's like the silliest name, like, ever. Like,
and then the name of the song was called "The Old Man and the Table Saw."
Yeah.
So I don't know, we were in, like, a very like jokey mood. We kind of thought both thought it wasn't going to be good.
And we never heard of it.
Yeah, and it's a 10-minute song, and we didn't know anything about the band at all.
Yeah, so we basically, like, put it on, and we were, like, still driving, and like listened to it, and at the end, like, Brandon turned to me, he's like, "What do you think about that?" And I was like, I kind of loved it. Like, I thought it was great.
Yeah, and I, like, when I said that to him, I thought he was not going to like it, but we kind of just, like, sat there in silence for 10 minutes and listened to it while we were driving around. And then I kind of thought he was going to hate it. And in my head, I was like, I hope he doesn't hate it because I loved it. We both just kind of loved it.
So we really loved that song. And, like honestly, like 2 weeks later, something, Brandon gave it to me for Album of the Week. And this was Repetitions of the Old City 1. And so I listened to it then, and I loved that album a lot then. But, like, in the past, like year or so, I've just gotten, like, really, really into this whole band. And they're featured heavily, like, on this list. So basically, like, since summer last year, I've just been listening to this band, like, nonstop all the time. That's it. This is still, like the song that got me into them, and still, like, one of my favorite songs by them. It's so good. I'd say they're, like, a progressive folk band, but they have, like, lots of other things too. I honestly feel like it's, like, dismissive to call them, like, a progressive folk band, because they, like, do a lot of other things. They have, like, a lot in common with, like, chamber music. It's really, really composed, and it's, like, really, like, I wouldn't say there aren't any, like, shreddy guitar solos or anything, but it's, like, one of the more compositionally complex bands that I listen to, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Just, like, the way that, like, the songs progress and evolve is, like, really nuts. And this song is no different. And also they have a really good, the main guy, Damon Waitkis, the main, like, composer, is a really fantastic vocalist. He's just, like, a lot of his vocals are kind of divisive. But I really like them. And also he's a really good lyricist. And this song is, like, about his, like, grandpa, and, like, he has said in interviews, like, he's like didn't have a great relationship with his, like, grandpa, and it's basically just about, like, a stubborn old man who, like, is kind of a jerk. That's, like, what the song's about. But it's really, really cool. It's a beautiful song. It's really dynamic. And there are lots of cool instruments that they use, like the violin. Like, they use the bassoon a lot. That's, like, an instrument that they play. They also have a female vocalist too, who's really good. Okay, so my number 41 is my first on the list by my favorite band, or at least probably my favorite band at this point. The band is Opeth, and the song is When, from their album My Arms, Your Hearse. And this is, the album is a concept album, and it's, we were talking about like which bands and which albums like benefited from the approach of like not taking the context into account as much. And I think Opeth is a band that in general won out from that process, but I think on their two concept albums, this and Still Life, I think they kind of lost, because like this album is really this is one of my favorite albums ever, but it just like the songs all enhance each other so much, and like it's like a journey that you kind of have to listen to. That said, I think When is a really fantastic song on its own. It starts out with just like a really like as a lot of songs, Opeth songs do. I mean, Opeth is a band, they're like a progressive death metal band, and they really love to do the whole like contrast thing between like sort of like lighter, clean elements and like heavy elements. And I think they do that. I still think that they do that better than anyone, in my opinion. And this album this song starts off with like just like a little like finger pick part that's like really calm, and then just like really almost like very jarringly, but like on purpose, like goes into this like incredibly like heavy like thing and like scream. And this album also is like really muddy. The whole thing is like really muddy. It's really muddy production, but that actually like helps it, I think, because there's constant like there's so many layers of things going on. And oftentimes there'll be just like a guitar solo like going on in the background, and like you won't notice even until you've listened to the album like a couple times. But it's super good. The song, and my favorite part of the song has like that really heavy section, and has like and does that, and then like towards the end it's got like a part where it's like heavy instrumentation over like clean vocals, and it really goes with the concept. I won't get into the concept here. I'm sure we'll do albums sometime, and then I'll do that. But it's a really cool concept, and it's like a really haunting way to end the song, and it's really pretty. All right, so those are the 10 that we're going to do for this week. Next week, we're going to do number 40 through number 31. So what do you have to say, Brandon? Were there any surprises for you? Any big surprises?
Yeah, I think the first part of the list surprised me a lot, like Veil by Haken.
Yeah.
The Deer Hunter song surprised me. I knew there'd be Deer Hunter on there, I just didn't know which one, so that surprised me. The Hammers of Misfortune one surprised me. I didn't even know that was your favorite song on that album, or one of your favorites on the album. Might not be. Spoiler alert. Yeah. And Cassandra Gemini being so low surprised me. I guess the Giant Squid song surprised me because I've never heard it. But and then, I think the next 5 after that did not surprise me, though. I expected all 5 of those to be on there, actually.
Yeah, nice.
And I didn't know where. It seems about right for most of them. Yeah. So that's what I thought about like your list so far.
Okay, nice. Yeah, if I have to say, I think that I thought that Arriving Somewhere but Not Here might be higher, but I wasn't surprised that was on the list. I also wasn't surprised that Anesthetize was on the list. I was like not super surprised either that Familiarity was on the list, honestly. I'd say if there was anything I was surprised about the most, I thought that Fourth Century would be somewhat higher, but that's cool. I also didn't think Note would be on there. That's actually, I don't know why I'm saying it's a pleasant surprise, but it kind of is. I don't know. I'm always rooting for Beardfish to be on the list for people. Other than that, I guess not too much. I expected pretty much all those to be on there, I guess.
Nice.
All right, so now we're going to do our song recs of the episode. And my song that I am going to rec is a song called Church of the Technochrist. By the band Closure in Moscow from the album Pink Lemonade. And that's a song that is one of my favorite songs in the album. Did not make this list, but it was one that was very close, which is why I'm giving it as a rec. It's a song that is very like energetic, and it's really fun. So the song is basically like about like a church of the Technochrist. It's like about a church where everything's like basically electronic, and like electronics are like the new god or whatever, like the new religion, and that's a pretty cool song. It fits into the concept of the album, which is really, really long and convoluted. I won't go into that, but they did like a write-up after the album came out, and it was like a several like page thing long of like what each song is supposed to mean in the concept, which is interesting. So for the actual music, it's really like the music on that song for some reason reminds me of like Pink Lemonade, because it's very like bubbly and like Pink Lemonade's not bubbly, but it's very like pink and like fun and very energetic, with excellent guitars and excellent singing. And probably my favorite part of the song is like towards the end of the song where they do this like really cool, it's like a guitar solo, but it's like sort of like more like, it's like clean, but it's like more like picky like parts that it's something you wouldn't expect. But it's like a really technical solo too, which they don't really do that as much on the album, not that they need to or anything, but it's really technical solo that's like at the end, and it's really cool. Great vocals overall, and just great vibe, great concepts, cool stuff. Check it out.
All right, my song rank of the episode is by a band called Bent Knee. They're a progressive rock band from Boston, I believe. They all went to Berkeley. I think they all met at Berkeley. At least I know the guitarist and the singer did, and I'm pretty sure all of them did though. But anyways, this band is like a little different from a lot of like prog rock and prog metal bands, and they're not like super flashy. Like they're not like overly technical. There's definitely more of like a minimalistic angle, which I think is interesting, and I think they do that like really well. But the song is Holy Ghost off their album Land Animal, which is a really, really great song for a couple reasons. It has really, really good lyrics. I think Courtney Swain, the vocalist, writes some really good lyrics, some really like heartfelt lyrics, like super emotional. And another thing about Courtney Swain is that she has just like some ridiculously good pair of pipes.
Yeah.
She's one of my favorite vocalists. She's like quite different, I think, from a lot of other vocalists. She's got this almost like, I don't know, it's like this like sassy tone in a lot of her songs, and that's not like an insult by any means when I say sassy. I don't know, the way she's enunciates some things, it's really interesting. But she's got a ridiculous voice, very like technical in a lot of aspects. She can do a lot of different styles as well. But the song's just this, it's really this like, it starts off like really quiet before bursting into this like energetic like rocker almost. I don't know, it's just like one of the most like sing-alongable songs ever, but also like I think lyrically it's kind of like sad as well, and it like is definitely a super emotional song, and it's got some interesting lyrics as well. There's this part in the middle where she's talking about swimming in a muck full of stomach stuff, which I think is like a really interesting way to explain that feeling, which I think I know what she's kind of talking about. But yeah, anyways, the song as a whole is just really, really good, and you should check it out. So that concludes episode 3. We hope you guys enjoyed our list so far and ranking. We definitely enjoy ranking things music related. And next week, episode 4, or I guess 2 weeks from now, we will have our next 10 songs each.